Hey, this is Richard Gordon, the host of Unconventional Times. I just had the pleasure of interviewing my dear friend Alicia Keys,
Not the singer.
but as good as a singer. And we talked about her company, Apaluma, and all the wonderful things that Apaluma is doing. So I hope you'll tune in because it's really an important conversation about making government better and helping it make important environmental decisions. And that's what Alicia Keys is doing. That's what Apaluma is doing. Please join us.
These unconventional times require unconventional conversations. Listen in as your host, Richard Gordon, engages in one-on-one conversations with numerous leaders, elected officials, politicians, and others to learn what's happening in your state, on the Hill, and across America. Now, here's the host of Unconventional Times, Richard Gordon.
Hello, and welcome to Unconventional Times. I'm your host, Richard Gordon. We're coming to you from Savannah, Georgia, where the Environmental Council of the States is meeting to discuss major environmental issues that affect all of us. And today, I have the pleasure of introducing a very dear friend, Alicia Keys. No, not that Alicia Keys, another Alicia Keys who's just as important. And if we're really lucky, she'll sing for us.
You don't want me to sing for you?
Okay, then we're not going to have you sing, but like I always sing to you, this girl is on fire.
This girl is on fire.
But we're going to get to all of that. Alicia is the founder and CEO of Apaluma, a company we're going to talk about quite a bit, who's been kind enough to sponsor us here this week at this meeting in Savannah. And it's a company which she's going to talk about a lot more, but it helps companies and government officials make better decisions. A lot of things it does, but when you really boil it down, it's all about decision making. And how do we help government, who is so pressed for time and money, make the right decision? And we're going to get to that a lot. When we first met, Alicia was New Mexico's Secretary of Economic Development. And when she was there, she was appointed by the governor, Michelle Lujan Grisham. But when she was there, she really did amazing stuff. I mean, amazing stuff. $34 billion in economic development impact money, 60 companies coming into the States, $7.3 billion in investments. And here's the thing that I think matters to most people. 10,000 new jobs created in the state of New Mexico. That is really quite a record. Alicia Keys.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Welcome to Unconventional Times. It's a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
Look, I'm sorry, but we got to do this. What a great name.
I know. She's so talented. I love sharing the name with her. I'm older than she is, so I had the name first, but I'm sure there's a lot more Alicia Keyses out there. So wherever you are, give us, hit us up. It's a strong tribe of us.
So let me ask you, I'm going to stay with this thing. How does it work as far as getting restaurants and, when you call to people like, oh my God, Alicia Keys is coming. I mean, look, we're going to promo this show as Alicia Keys. So it's going to be a big show for me.
So before I started in government, I was working for the Walt Disney Company, traveling all over the world. And it was before Clive Davis had actually taken Alicia Keys out public. So nobody really had that many pictures of her. And I was in Rome. And went to a hotel and there was a gaggle of Italian ladies waiting for me. And I had to sign my signature and the whole thing. And it's been kind of crazy. But I love my name. I love her. Yeah.
And when's your new album coming out, Alicia?
Never.
There we go. You referenced that you worked for the Disney organization for a while. And I know you produced a couple movies as well. But what inspired you to leave the private world to go into the public
sector?
Why'd you leave the private sector to go into the public sector? What inspired you?
Yeah.
Because one of the things I left out in my introduction was you worked for the city of Albuquerque,
right,
and did some amazing stuff, including getting Netflix to locate in New Mexico. I mean, that's kind of amazing stuff.
Yeah. So funny story. I had known the mayor of Albuquerque since we were young. There was a beach water park in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I was a deep water guard.
Wait, come on. What do you mean beach?
It's like a water park in New Mexico.
And it had sand.
And they had sand, but they had a wave pool and they had slides.
I thought my geography was off.
Right. So the mayor and I worked there. I was a deep water lifeguard. He was a tube shack boy. And that's how we started and that's how we met.
Wow, that's funny.
And then
current mayor?
Pardon?
The current mayor?
Yes, Mayor Tim Keller.
So what inspired you to do that as opposed to staying in the private sector? Because clearly you could have made significantly more money
Yeah.
in the private sector.
Well, I had moved home and gone
Home
back to
being
New
New Mexico.
Mexico with my family and my 2 kids that I had adopted. And I just felt like at that point in my life, the kids were just leaving for university. And I just wanted to get back to my community. And Mayor Keller called me and asked if I wanted to work at the film office and take over as the director. And on day 2, I came in and I said, "What is this Albuquerque Studios? Why is it half empty, half not?" And really what it was about was like identifying a stranded asset that wasn't working for the city. So I called my friends at Netflix and said, "I know you all are looking for production space. Would you think about New Mexico and specifically Albuquerque?" And that's really how the deal happened very quickly. It was a phone call. And then they flew out and we talked about it and we negotiated for 9 hours and then the deal was done. And ultimately it was a $2 billion investment in Netflix in Albuquerque, their first North American production facility. And it's been great. It's really been wonderful for our state.
Have movies and production always been a passion of yours? Is that something that you've always been interested in?
I think the human experience is something that I've always been interested in. And how do we tell the story of the human experience? That still drives me. That's why we're doing these podcasts. I just feel like we're creating an AI platform, a unified AI platform for government data. It's so that the human in the loop can actually make good decisions and collaborate. So as much as we can collaborate, as much as we can share best practices, and that's what I'm hoping that this podcast is a bunch of really incredible professionals sharing best practices.
So tell me about creating jobs. Tell me
Yeah.
what that
Yeah.
feels like, because you change people's lives
Yeah.
forever. Not only their life, but you change their children's life, their grandchildren's life. I mean, you talk about human experience. You are changing the way people live. You are lifting people from one economic strata to another. What's that feel like?
Yeah, as a cabinet secretary, you're always competing against other cabinet secretaries for funding. And I always feel like every cabinet secretary feels like their cabinet is the most important. And I really do feel like being able to help people find meaningful employment just resonated with me. For me, now being out of government, what I miss the most is just asking every single day. Like the question that I was paid to ask was, "How can I help you?" That's just a lovely question to ask on a daily
Right.
basis. Yeah, so I do miss that part of it.
The thing I loved about public service that I miss is you do something for other people who will never know
No.
you.
Yeah.
They don't know you. They don't know your name.
Yeah.
They don't know what you did. They don't know the work, the hours,
Right.
whatever. But you have changed people's lives. If you come into government for the right reason, which you did, it's to change people's lives for the better, right?
It was interesting. I mean, I was in a supermarket and somebody came up to me that I didn't know. He was a childcare provider. And he said, the newsletter that the Economic Development Department started during COVID saved my life.
Wow. Wow, wow. How? Did he tell
Well,
you?
we
Is
just
there
tried to give
connection?
everybody the opportunity to, if we had any funds, if we could help out during that time, we started sending this newsletter out so people knew. And it got, I mean, like 18,000 followers after a few weeks, and it just kept on growing.
Wow.
And I didn't realize that there wasn't enough information getting out to people. And during that time, when everybody felt very
Isolated.
isolated,
Alone.
isolated,
Yeah.
I think that really resonated.
I don't think we really fully understand the effects those couple of years had on us. I refer to it as a hole puncher, that you use to put a hole in paper, just like put a hole in our bodies, put a hole in our system. It just changed us dramatically. And I don't think we even know all of it. And to be able to reach out to people the way you did and make people understand that there was hope, that there was this.
Well, there was someone there to help them and to
exactly.
talk to them.
We were going
Yeah.
to help you get through this.
Yeah, we started a hotline actually within the first 24 hours. That was pretty emotional, just the stories that the people answering that hotline would receive. And just, trying to help them find funding, trying to help them find assistance, either federally or via the state.
Couple more questions, economic development.
Yeah.
I've always been interested, fascinated, whatever the right word is, your focus on the border. the United States-Mexico border. I mean, you're from a state. It's really interesting. Those of us who don't live in border states don't fully understand it, right?
Mhm.
In the same way that you understand it. But you have made a major focus, but your focus is interesting. We're living in a time where people are condemning the border, they're condemning people coming across the border, whatever. But your emphasis on the border, the way I understand it, I'd love to hear you speak to it, was, again, let's stick with this theme of how do we help people? How do we create better lives of people? And you did it through economic development. I'd love you to talk about the border and how you did it and why you did it.
Yeah, I think that in terms of economic development, regional global trade is going to become more of the norm. And so I really saw Mexico cross-border. I really saw Mexico as an ally and a neighbor and a trading partner. And that's how I treated the relationship. And New Mexico has been struggling in terms of making that area a global trade center. For many years. When you fly over El Paso, it's got so many warehouses and it's got an amazing amount of manufacturing. And then you fly over in New Mexico and there's maybe one or two things. And so
Is
we
that because
thought,
of the bridge or what?
no, I think it's hard to say why it is, but I think right now New Mexico is at that place where they are becoming a global trade center, and Santa Teresa specifically, New Mexico is really coming into its own. So I'm excited about what's happening there. But we did a lot of travel to Mexico. We worked a lot with not only the governors, but the president and the president's staff at SRE. So for me, it will continue to be a focus. And I think that for New Mexico, it really is a gateway for more economic development. And the governor has done a great job of going down there. Secretary Kenny has done an incredible job of
That's
working
the
cross-border
environmental.
on the environment department, really cross-border with the people from Mexico and the government from Mexico. So it's a relationship that New Mexico really values.
And how do you see the change in that relationship? I mean, what does that do for the communities down there?
Well, the communities are very porous between Mexico and New Mexico. People work on both sides of the border. In Columbus, one of the towns down there, we actually have students that come over from Mexico. So for us, it's a family down there, and families live on both sides of the border. And a lot of people speak English and Spanish down there. So it really is for us. They're our neighbors, they're our friends, they're our partners.
Before we leave economic development, I've got to ask you about this because I always found this so cool. You did a lot of work with the space mission and, Virgin Galactic
Yes.
and that, just talk about that a little bit. Because for most of us, the closest we get to a space launch is, watching it on TV. You actually helped make it happen.
Mhm.
And I know there were a couple times you and I were on the phone and you were going to a launch.
The spaceport was administratively attached to economic development. And I got very involved very quickly with the border and with the spaceport. So we launched Sir Richard Branson into space. And that was an incredible moment.
And you brought him back, which is
and we
even
brought him
something
back.
else.
And the day before, it was really funny. I was at the spaceport. We had no internet. And I looked outside the window and there was just this cow just chewing grass right there. And I thought, oh my gosh, we are launching a man into space tomorrow and don't have internet and the cows are coming. So we made it happen, and the spaceport is great. It's a total asset for New Mexico. But my team really worked hard to figure out what can we do economic development wise with that asset, because it was put together by Governor Richardson. I think it's like $250 million were spent on that. And so how can we really light it up and make sure that not only Virgin Galactic, but other companies are launching out of there? Because New Mexico has a really long history of having disruptors who come there, who want to do things differently, who don't feel like they need to be on the coasts. And he was one of those people.
You see this growing over time?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. I think that space travel is going to become just even more and more commonplace. I think that we understand now the satellite situation and how important space is. So yes, I think it's going to just continue to grow.
So if I want a ticket to get on a spaceship, I call you? Is that how
You
this
call
works?
Virgin Galactic.
Okay, I call Virgin Galactic. Oh, so you're not getting me a ticket. I'm kind of crushed here. So we're here in Savannah, Georgia, at the Environmental Council of the States meeting, where all the heads of the environmental agencies are here, all the leaders, people from EPA in Washington. A lot of discussions on a lot of issues. We could get into some of them that are very important to people. The theme of this session, the theme of the conference is the environment and economic development. And you are the epitome of it. You are the personification of it, if you really think about it, because, and we're going to get into this with Apaluma in a minute. And by the way, thank you. You are the sponsor of this program.
Thank
so
you.
I appreciate you're doing that. So thank you very much. We appreciate it. It's giving an opportunity for a lot of really talented people who are working really hard in their agencies to have a voice and to be able to speak on a different platform. And so thank you. I think it's a very important thing, and I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for agreeing to do it. When I met this group of people and when I started working with Secretary Kenny, I just realized they are dealing with the most important data in the world. And I just, hearing their pain points, hearing the issues that are coming up, I think everyone's going to be really excited about learning more.
Well, I want to get to some of that in a second, but let's talk about this conference for a second. First of all, let's just start with a basic thing. As I said a second ago, you to me are the personification of this merger, right, between the environment and economic development, because you have done both.
Mm-hmm.
To a lot of people out there, they are completely incompatible. Like, how do these two things sit together? And for a lot of people, when they think about it, every time a factory is built, housing development is built, there is a cost.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not just talking about dollars, there's a cost to the environment. You rip down a forest to put up a housing complex, we have a housing shortage, but there is a cost. You had to deal with this in real time with a governor who, part of the governor's job is to create jobs, and you created 10,000 of them.
Mm-hmm.
But you also had a Secretary of the Environment who you've referenced a few times, whose job was to protect the environment. How do you make it come together? I'm really fascinated by how do you make those two issues that we all look at as just incompatible? How do you make it work?
Do you know, I think that Secretary Kenny and I started working together right away. We wouldn't talk to a company without having someone from his staff in the room, because it has to
There's
happen.
always someone from the environment.
Yeah, it has to be sustainable economic development if it's going to happen. You have to think about the natural resources that you have. You have to think about the water. You have to think about the air, the people. And so I couldn't really do my job without him. And we advocated for each other's budgets, which had never happened before, and just really worked hand in hand. And through working with him is really how I came to start Apaluma. Because I learned what his side of the job was, and the data that we didn't have, and the data that I didn't have, and how long it took us to find that data. And that was one of the reasons I started the company.
Now, you traveled extensively. I know you were in the Middle East, you were in Israel. I think you were in Dubai at one time. You were in Asia a lot. Why? Talk to us a little bit. I don't think people understand, sometimes. Actually, this is something I'm interested in. A lot of times the public sees politicians traveling overseas. They think it's a junket. They think it's for fun. Now, you and I have talked with each other while you were overseas, and you sounded exhausted.
Yeah, those trips are brutal. They're not for fun.
So talk to us about it. What purpose do they serve?
Yeah.
Why are they important?
I mean, during this time we're seeing, during the time I was a secretary, a lot of onshoring and reshoring back to the United States.
And that was one of your major
And that was really one of my major pushes, is foreign direct investment. And the governor was fully behind that. So we traveled to Taiwan. We brought companies over from Asia. We brought companies from Mexico. We looked at water systems and desal in Israel. So it was an eye-opening experience, like feeding from a fire hose. But we realized, especially with Mexico as our neighbor, that industrial manufacturing, advanced manufacturing, was going to be a good fit down south. And so we did a lot of recruiting internationally.
So that combines your focus on the border with your focus on the 9 sectors.
Global trade was one of those sectors.
I see.
And that was the major commercial port, is the major commercial port of Santa Teresa in New Mexico.
Got it. So let's turn our focus a little bit, okay? You've teased about Apaluma. And Apaluma, you're wearing the shirt.
Yep, there we go.
By the way, well, we're going to get to this in one second, but I'll get there in a second. why Apaluma? How'd you come up with
Yeah.
the name? Where'd that come from?
So I
It's not in the
incubated.
dictionary.
Yes,
I've
it's
looked.
not. It's not. And there's a reason. So I incubated the company out in Silicon Valley and basically was put through a few weeks of really rigorous work with a bunch of people from MIT and Stanford and people who have started startups before. And the first part of it, I came with like all these names like data gov, this is awful. And Ben, one of the gentlemen who incubated me, said, Alicia, you have to have a name that is like copyrightable, that you have to go and you have to create a name in the next 24 hours and come back. And so with the team, we were just brainstorming everything. So 2 reasons. Obviously, Luma, we are bringing dark data to light. So that really, made sense.
Illuminate.
Yeah, exactly. And then APA came from the fact that we really wanted the governors, and I was specifically thinking of the governor that I had just worked for, if she could open up her phone and see an app, exactly, what the state of the state was on her app. And so then it became very obvious, like Apaluma.
An
And then
application to bring things to light.
Right. And then my grandfather on my mom's side used to be a horse whisperer in Las Vegas, New Mexico, and train horses. And I've always loved like an Appaloosa horse. My mom has always loved an Appaloosa horse. So Apaluma, Appaloosa, it just, winner, winner, chicken dinner right there.
How New Mexico? I mean, it ties it all together. But you've confused me now, because I would have thought that the symbol for the company would therefore be a horse, but it's a seahorse. Okay, so you want to explain that one?
Yes. So we had this brilliant developer working for us named Eric, and he said, do you know that the hippocampus is actually in the shape of a seahorse? And the hippocampus is where you store all of the data in your brain. And so then it became a seahorse. And we had another really fabulous person working for us, Mimi, who was our designer. And she designed this and put the elephant in the negative space. And so it is land and sea. And I just went bananas over it because I'm a big animal person. So all of our animals within the Apaluma platform will have great names and help you immensely, hopefully.
You ruined my next question, which was going to be to challenge the people who are watching this to see if they could see the negative space.
Yes, exactly.
Which took me some time, I must admit.
It does, yeah.
One weird thing about me, I will tell you, the Batman symbol?
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah.
You probably see a bat.
Right.
I see 4 teeth.
Oh, that's interesting.
I see the yellow.
So you always see the negative.
That's in color. That's it. That you could argue, Alicia, you could argue that's the positive, right?
True.
You could argue that I only see the positive. I don't see the dark
negative.
side. I only see the positive. So, why you started talking about this a little bit with your work with New Mexico's Environmental Secretary James Kenney. What need was there? What was out there in the world that hadn't been met? That you thought you could start a new company and meet a need? Because I don't think any of us knew there was a need.
This is what really drove it home. On about the 3rd day of being a secretary, because I had worked with the film industry before, I received a phone call from the film unions. And they said, there is a building in Albuquerque that we feel like is making our crew sick. And what can you do about it? Like, can you figure out what's going on? And so I called the Secretary of the Environment and said, this is a situation. It took us 2 years to gather all of the data together. It was siloed across different departments, even just within his cabinet. And it was all on paper files. So why is it taking us 2 years to get an answer?
And people are getting sick during these 2 years.
And people are getting sick during these 2 years. So that was really one of the first reasons why I decided that, I needed to start the company. And then we did do quite a bit of economic development. We brought a lot of companies, created a lot of jobs, and we were getting an awful reputation of just not being able to permit quickly enough. So
the state couldn't permit.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Which is your department.
And it will cost companies billions of dollars. And as I'm talking to environmental professionals here at ECOS, it's still a problem. Permitting is still a problem. So what Apaluma does is really, we help these state regulators digitize and unify their data. First of all, foremost, that's what you have to do.
So digitize, let's just slow down.
Yeah.
Digitize means taking a piece of paper and making it usable on a computer.
Exactly. One example that I think really shows the problem is the Environment Department in New Mexico has the quality of the water. The state engineer has the quality of the water. Those two data sets have never been merged or looked at together for the PRC to set the water utility rates. They've never had those two data sets together in order to look at. And that's everywhere in the United States. And
Right.
AI is finally giving us the capabilities to take those data sets on a pretty massive level and analyze them.
It's really amazing. And, I was thinking about my introduction while you were talking. I was thinking about my introduction of you a few minutes ago. Government is being forced to make decisions that they don't have the information to make. And one of the things I found when I was charged with the responsibility of signing permits was I didn't have enough knowledge. So did I have enough knowledge about the actual application? Yes. Did my staff tell me whether to sign it or not? Give me their recommendation? Yes. Did I usually follow it? Yes. But I couldn't tell if Alicia's application and Tom's application were next door to each other and they were
Right.
both polluting the air. Now they both could be under the limit, but they're 10 feet from each other.
Right.
How does Apaluma deal with that?
Well, I think that that's what our core mission is getting that data together, unifying it, putting it per location, because you would be shocked. The naming conventions that the divisions and the departments and the cabinets use across the United States, there is no real naming convention.
What do you mean by
There's no data management on that. So the Office of the State Engineer could be calling a certain well in the Estancia Valley something very different than what the Environment Department would be calling it. And so how
So
do
they
you,
wouldn't know it's the same thing.
yeah,
We're talking about the same thing,
right.
but we're calling
It's
it by a
not,
different
we're-
name.
yeah, because when
see.
the naming conventions were done, they were done differently and they weren't done in unison.
So you then go back in and make sure that everyone has the same name?
Within Apaluma, we unify it and we make sure that this well is associated, from both departments with the same location. So it's about lat long.
And also, I mean, what I hear all the time is agencies don't talk to each other.
Mm-hmm.
But not only agencies, different parts of the same agency. So, for example, the air might not talk to the water, which is somewhat ironic because they go together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How does this deal with that? How does it make it? You keep using the word unified.
Right.
So why don't you explain what you mean? How is something unified? Is that you mean everyone gets the same name, but you also talk about how you make it so everyone in the agency could see it?
Right. So it's on the Apaluma platform, and they're able to draw information not only from their own states, but from other people's states. So when we started working on our pilot project, we met with the compliance officer and going through the user stories and hearing how employees will actually use the tool is super important. And the head of compliance said to me, Alicia, if you could actually make it available to me who are the bad actors in other states, they're probably the bad actors here.
Right.
And they've changed the name of their company or their address or something about them. But if there is a way to unify that information, that would be incredibly helpful to me. So
It's interesting because when you apply for a driver's license, the first question is, are you suspended in any other state?
Mhm.
So they know instantly.
Right. Exactly.
The other thing I hear all the time is I have boxes and boxes and boxes of documents. We all think that our documents are so important and we don't throw them out and we keep them forever, but they're useless in boxes.
Right.
They don't do anything in boxes. And what happens is you don't know why it's important. So if a company is applying for a permit, you don't know what it did 10 years ago.
Mhm. Exactly.
Is that what digitization does? Is that what helps?
And it also just creates a record. There's an employee at the Environment Department. He's been there for 18 years. And he said, Alicia, honestly, I want to retire. And I've got all of this information in my head. And people come to me when they want to know about a permit.
Right.
And I can't be the source of truth because I want to retire with my grandkids. So can you get this on there? And it is boxes of paper that need to be, or, old systems like Tempo that were established. We've had water records kept for one employee for about 24 years impeccably. But there hasn't been, until AI, there really hasn't been that mechanism to compare, analyze, and predict. So I think that it's a moment in time. It's an industrial revolution. And when you think about it, it's all of a sudden, all of this data is available to us. And the commodity of knowledge is now available to everyone.
Is Apaluma a tech company? Is Apaluma an environmental company?
We're a tech company.
You're a tech company that works in the environment.
Exactly.
Again, we're here at this environmental conference. I'm going to brag on you. You just won the Shark Tank. Second year in a row.
Second year in a row.
I just want to be, I want to end, but I want to ask you one thing, because I just want to be clear to people who are listening. It doesn't have to only be for government, correct?
No, yes, we are starting with regulators, but we really feel like we want to be the bridge for economic development. So really at the nexus of sustainable economic development is where Apaluma wants to be.
So it sounds like your life is coming full circle. You have the economic development piece, you've got the technology piece, and you're creating jobs.
Yeah, just keep on kind of following your heart and what feels right, and it feels right.
Good. Well, Alicia Keys, the Alicia Keys. And by I want to say, if the other Alicia Keys wants to be on the program, I'll try to find time in my schedule. But Alicia Keys, thank you for being on Unconventional Times. It's been a lot of fun for me. And as I like to tell my guests, Alicia Keys, stay unconventional.
I will. Thank you, Richard Gordon.
Thanks for joining us.
You've been listening to Unconventional Times with your host, Richard Gordon. Check out all of the episodes of Unconventional Times on Apple, Google, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. To learn more about Richard Gordon and all of his unconventional conversations, head on over to unconventionaltimes.com. Thanks for listening.